The inspection shuttle landed on Earth with barely a whisper. Inside sat Commander of the Galactic Research Authority, his 4 eyes scanning the facility below with growing concern. For 300 years, the Authority had maintained order across 2,000 research stations. Every lab followed the same rules. Every experiment used the same methods. Every species contributed their small piece to the great puzzle of science. Then humanity joined the galaxy, stepped out onto the landing pad, and immediately knew something was wrong. The building before him looked more like a war zone than a laboratory. Scorch marks decorated the walls. Windows showed rooms filled with equipment that seemed to be fighting for space. Through one window, he saw what appeared to be an explosion frozen in mid-burst behind a containment field. A human walked past it carrying a cup of steaming liquid, not even glancing at the chaos. His guide appeared, a short human woman with wild hair pulled back in a messy knot. She wore a stained lab coat and safety glasses pushed up on her forehead. Her smile was wide and unsettling. "Commander, welcome to Site 17. I'm Dr. Sarah, director of this madhouse." She laughed at her own words. "Sorry about the mess. We had a breakthrough in quantum foam manipulation this morning. Set off every alarm in the building." Clutched his data pad. "You had a containment breach." "Oh no, nothing breached. We just discovered that quantum foam really doesn't like being poked with polarized neutrinos. Made a hell of a light show though. Got some great readings before the equipment melted." "Your equipment melted." "Third time this month. Started walking, forcing to follow. Don't worry, we build our stuff tough. Well, tough enough, usually." The tour became progressively more alarming. In the first lab, researchers from 6 different fields crowded around a single workbench, all shouting over each other. A young human argued with a scientist who had gray hair and deep wrinkles, their voices rising in what sounded like anger. Moved to intervene but waved him off. "They're fine. That's Dr. Williams and his grad student. They do this every day. She thinks his theory is garbage. He thinks her approach is reckless. By lunch, they'll have synthesized both ideas into something neither of them expected." "But the disrespect." "It's not disrespect, it's passion." Pushed through a door into another lab where something was definitely on fire. 3 humans stood around the flames taking notes. In most species labs, junior researchers never question their seniors. You know what that gets you. Centuries of the same thinking. We question everything, especially authority. Watched a human extinguish the fire with casual ease, then immediately restart the experiment with slight modifications. "Your safety protocols are very strict," interrupted. "We just have a different definition of safe. Safe doesn't mean nothing goes wrong. Safe means when things go wrong, we learn from it and nobody dies." "Nobody dies." His voice rose higher than he intended. "Well, not often." The next lab was worse. Equipment hung from the ceiling on chains. Wires ran across the floor in tangled masses. Nothing matched. One machine looked like it had been built from parts of 4 different devices, held together with what called duct tape. "This violates every construction code in the Authority Handbook," said weakly. "Probably, but it works. See, your codes assume we know what we're building before we build it. We don't work that way. We build, test, break, rebuild, test again. That machine there started as a spectrometer. Now it can detect dark matter fluctuations at ranges your best equipment can't touch. We didn't plan that. We stumbled into it." Spent 2 weeks observing human laboratories. Every day brought new horror and new wonder. He watched experiments fail spectacularly, then watched humans immediately set up the next attempt with lessons learned. He saw researchers pivot entire projects based on unexpected results, chasing tangents that fascinated them. He witnessed arguments that seemed on the verge of violence transform into collaborative breakthroughs. But what disturbed him most was the data. 20 years. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for only 20 years. In that time, human laboratories had published more groundbreaking research than the previous century of galactic science combined. They had solved problems that had stumped the greatest minds for generations. They had opened entire new fields of study. They had forced the authority to rewrite fundamental theories about how the universe worked, all while breaking every rule in the book. On his final day, Saturn's cluttered office, surrounded by stacks of papers, half-assembled devices, and coffee cups in various states of neglect. Through the window, he could see a team of researchers celebrating what looked like a successful test. They sprayed each other with foam from bottles, laughing and shouting. "I don't understand," admitted. "Your methods are chaotic. Your safety standards are questionable. Your researchers seem barely controlled, yet you achieve more than facilities that follow proper procedures." Leaned back in her chair, considering. "You want to know the real secret, the thing that makes human labs different?" "Please." "We're okay with being wrong, more than okay. We celebrate it." She gestured to the celebrating researchers outside. "See that team? They just proved their main hypothesis was completely backwards. They're thrilled because now they know something new, something unexpected. That's worth more than being right." "But science requires rigor, discipline, careful planning." "Sure, we have all that, but we also have something else. We have the willingness to throw out the plan when the universe shows us something better." Stood and walked to a wall covered in papers. "Look at these. Everyone is a failed experiment. We keep them up to remember what we learned. Most species hide their failures. We hang them on the wall." Studied the papers. Hundreds of them. Each one marked with notes about what went wrong and what was learned. It was a monument to imperfection, to the courage to be wrong. "Your people evolved in stable environments," continued. "Predictable seasons, reliable food sources. You learned to perfect your methods over time. Humans, we evolved in chaos, climate swings, food scarcity, predators everywhere. We learned to try everything, fail most of the time, and keep trying until something worked. We brought that to science." She pulled down one paper, yellowed with age. "This was my first experiment as a graduate student. I was trying to prove an elegant theory about protein folding. Spent 6 months on it. The theory was beautiful, perfect, and completely wrong. I cried for 2 days." "That sounds painful." "It was, but in proving my theory wrong, I discovered something nobody expected. That discovery became the foundation of my career." She pinned the paper back up. "We don't fear failure. We hunt it down, because failure tells us where the interesting questions hide." Looked at his data pad, at the report he needed to file. By every standard measure, human laboratories should be shut down immediately. They violated protocols designed to protect researchers and maintain scientific integrity. They operated in controlled chaos that bordered on madness. But they produced results, impossible, undeniable results. The question that haunted him was simple: what should he recommend? The Galactic Research Authority convened in emergency session. Preliminary reports had caused panic among the leadership. Representatives from 300 species filled the grand chamber, all demanding answers. "The human facilities are a disaster waiting to happen," declared the representative, his translator making his clicks sound stern. "We must intervene before they harm themselves or others." "Their methods violate 47 safety protocols," added the scientist, her tentacles writhing with agitation. 47. Some of those protocols were written in the blood of researchers who died learning why we need them. Stood at the center podium, feeling the weight of attention from hundreds of beings. "I understand your concerns. I shared them. But I must present the complete picture." He activated the display. Charts and graphs filled the air above the chamber. In 20 years, human laboratories have published 73,000 papers. 42,000 of those papers presented discoveries that were previously unknown to galactic science. 12,000 papers forced us to revise existing theories. 3,000 opened entirely new fields of study. Silence fell across the chamber. In the previous century, all other species combined published 80,000 papers. Of those, only 8,000 presented new discoveries. Most of our research confirms what we already know. Human research constantly reveals what we don't know. But at what cost? They demanded. How many humans have died in their reckless experiments? Pulled up another chart. In 20 years of operation across 47 laboratories, humans have had 318 significant accidents. 23 researchers were seriously injured. 2 died. To death, this proves. In the same period, our properly regulated facilities had 147 significant accidents. 72 researchers seriously injured. 8 deaths. Let that sink in. Human laboratories are not more dangerous. They are safer despite their methods, or perhaps because of them. The chamber erupted in confused voices, raised his voice over the noise. They are safer because humans expect things to go wrong. They prepare for failure. They build redundancy into everything. They assume every experiment might explode, so they contain it. We assume our careful planning prevents problems, so we're caught off guard when problems occur anyway. He pulled up video from his observation period. The chamber watched as a human experiment failed catastrophically, but the failure was contained. Researchers immediately began analyzing what went wrong, their voices excited rather than dismayed. "Watch their faces," said softly. "They're not disappointed, they're fascinated." Another video showed a young human arguing passionately with a senior researcher, their disagreement intense. Then showed them an hour later, working side by side, combining their ideas. They challenge each other constantly. In our laboratories, questioning authority is seen as disrespectful. In human laboratories, not questioning authority is seen as lazy. They force each other to defend every assumption, explain every decision. It makes them sharper. The scientist raised a tentacle, but their equipment, the chaos, how can they achieve precision in such disorder? That's the thing I struggled with most, admitted. I kept expecting the chaos to produce chaotic results, but it doesn't, because underneath the apparent disorder is a different kind of order. They don't organize by procedure. They organize by principle. He showed images of human laboratories, their strange mixtures of disciplines and equipment. They put biologists next to physicists not despite their different fields, but because of them. They want different perspectives colliding. They want someone who sees the problem completely differently. That collision generates insights that never occur when everyone thinks the same way. "This is madness," muttered someone in the back. "No, it's method. A different method than ours, but a method nonetheless." Took a deep breath. "I spent 2 weeks trying to understand why human laboratories work. I interviewed researchers. I observed experiments. I dug through their historical records, and I found something remarkable." He pulled up images of Earth from various periods. Humans reached industrial technology in an incredibly short time. Do you know why? Because they shared information freely. While other species kept knowledge within closed circles, humans spread ideas everywhere. A discovery in one part of their world would reach the other side within months. They built on each other's work constantly. That explains rapid advancement, not their chaotic methods, they pointed out. "Doesn't it?" Smiled. "Think about it. Free exchange of ideas means more perspectives, more challenges, more combinations. It means accepting that your idea might be improved by someone else. It means embracing the possibility that you're wrong. Humans brought that cultural trait to their science." He showed more videos, more data, more examples. The chamber watched human researchers fail, learn, pivot, and break through. They saw the celebration of negative results, the rapid iteration, the fearless pursuit of interesting questions over comfortable answers. "I believe human laboratories succeed because they've industrialized something most species do by accident," continued. "They've made serendipity into a system. They've weaponized curiosity. They don't wait for breakthroughs to happen. They create conditions where breakthroughs are inevitable. "So what do you recommend?" asked the authority chairman, an ancient being whose species had been conducting research for 5,000 years. Met his eyes. "I recommend we learn from them, not copy them exactly. Most of our species would find their methods genuinely traumatic, but we can adopt the principles. We can encourage more interdisciplinary work. We can celebrate negative results. We can create spaces where failure is safe and questioning is encouraged. You want to legitimize their chaos. I want to understand their success. There's a difference." Closed his data pad. "We can continue as we have, achieving steady, predictable progress, or we can embrace some controlled chaos and see what breakthroughs emerge. The humans have shown it's possible." The debate raged for 3 days. Conservative voices demanded strict regulation of human facilities. Progressive voices called for galaxy-wide adoption of human methods. Compromises were proposed, rejected, modified, and proposed again. In the end, the authority passed a historic resolution. Human laboratories would continue operating under their own methods, but with regular observation and safety reviews. Other species facilities would remain under traditional protocols, but could apply for special innovation zones, where human-style methods were permitted on a trial basis. Most controversial, a new facility would be built, staffed by researchers from multiple species, operating under human principles of controlled chaos and collaborative discovery. It was called the Breakthrough Initiative. Most species thought it would fail within a year. 5 years later, Commander returned to Earth. Site 17 had grown significantly. New wings sprawled in every direction, each one buzzing with activity. The scorch marks on the walls had been joined by new ones. More windows showed contained chaos. Doctor met him at the landing pad, looking barely older but considerably more tired. "Commander, welcome back. You here for another inspection?" "Actually, I'm here for a tour. I'm director of the Breakthrough Initiative now." His eyes widened. "The one that just solved the dark matter problem?" "The very same. We used your methods. Threw together physicists, mathematicians, and a poet who had interesting ideas about dimensional geometry. Let them argue for 3 weeks. By the end, they developed a completely new framework for understanding spacetime." Allowed himself a small smile. "We've also had 4 major equipment failures, 6 intense arguments that cleared entire floors, and 1 incident involving quantum-entangled coffee that we still don't fully understand." "Sounds about right," laughed. "Coffee and quantum mechanics should never mix. We learned that the hard way." They walked through the facility, marveled at how much had changed and how much stayed the same. The chaos remained, but now he could see the pattern within it. The arguments continued, but now he understood they were collaborations in disguise. The failures accumulated, but now he recognized them as stepping stones to success. "The initiative sent me here to learn more," explained. "We've adopted your principles, but we're still learning the practice. Our researchers are getting better at embracing failure, but they still hesitate." "That's because you're teaching old dogs new tricks," said. "Your species evolved differently. You'll never be as comfortable with chaos as we are, but you don't need to be. You just need to be comfortable enough." She led him to a new wing. "This might interest you. Joint Human and Lab. They brought their incredible precision and careful methodology. We brought our willingness to break things and see what happens. Together, we've made some amazing discoveries." Through the window, saw a researcher and a human working side by side. These movements were precise and methodical. The humans were quick and improvisational. They complemented each other perfectly. "That's Dr. Williams and researcher, or they've been partners for 2 years. They drive each other crazy and bring out each other's best work. Williams makes sure they explore every wild tangent, or makes sure they don't miss important details in their excitement. It works better than either could alone. That's what we're learning. It's not about making everyone work like humans. It's about finding the right balance, your precision and our chaos, your patience and our speed, your depth and our breadth. They spent the day touring labs, meeting researchers, observing experiments both successful and failed. Took notes constantly, recording insights to bring back to the initiative. In the evening, they sat in office again. It was even more cluttered than before, now with artifacts from a dozen species mixed among the human chaos. "Can I ask you something?" said. "Why do you think it works, the real reason?" Was quiet for a moment, choosing her words. "I think it's because we accept the universe doesn't care about our theories. We can have the most beautiful, elegant explanation for how things work. But if reality disagrees, reality wins. Always. So we'd rather be surprised by the truth than comfortable with a beautiful lie." Most species find that attitude unsettling. "I know, because it means accepting that you might be wrong about everything, that everything you've built your career on might crumble tomorrow. That's terrifying," she smiled. "But it's also liberating. If you're not attached to being right, you're free to discover what's true." Thought about his own research, conducted carefully over decades according to established protocols. Safe, predictable, limited. "The initiative has been operating for 5 years," he said. "We've made 7 major breakthroughs. In my previous 300 years of research, I contributed to 2 breakthroughs. Both times, I was part of a team doing exactly what we were trained to do. And now I lead a team doing what we're not trained to do. We fail constantly. We argue daily. We rebuild our understanding weekly. And I've learned more in 5 years than I did in 3 centuries." He looked at. "I'm terrified every day that we'll miss something important, but I'm also more excited about science than I've been in my entire life." Raised her coffee cup. "Welcome to the club. We have anxiety and breakthroughs in equal measure." They talked long into the night, sharing stories of failures and successes, of experiments gone wrong in interesting ways, of the strange joy that comes from being completely wrong about something important. 20 years after his first inspection, the galaxy had changed. The Breakthrough Initiative had spawned 23 sister facilities across member species space. Traditional laboratories remained the majority, but innovation zones had become common. The number of significant discoveries had tripled. Fields once considered mature were being revolutionized by fresh eyes and interdisciplinary approaches. Human laboratories were no longer seen as dangerous anomalies. They were seen as proof that different approaches to science could yield different results, that the careful, methodical advancement of the past 3 centuries was one path, but not the only path. The Galactic Research Authority published new guidelines, not replacing the old protocols, but supplementing them, creating space for controlled chaos within overall structure, encouraging questions alongside answers, celebrating interesting failures alongside expected successes. Dr. Sarah, now in her 60s, stood before the authorities' grand assembly. They had invited her to receive the Luminary Award, the highest honor in galactic science. She accepted the crystal statue with grace, then surprised everyone by placing it on the podium and stepping away from it. "I appreciate this honor," she said, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. "But I'm not the one who deserves it. Human science didn't change the galaxy. Human willingness to be wrong in public changed the galaxy, and that's something any species can choose." She pulled up an image on the display, a wall covered in failed experiments. "This is from my laboratory. We call it the Wall of Awesome Failures. Every paper there represents something we were wrong about, something we tried that didn't work, something that taught us more than success ever could." Another image, a mixed species team arguing around a workbench, their body language intense. This is a daily occurrence across the Breakthrough Initiative facilities. Different species, different perspectives, all convinced they're right and everyone else is wrong. Looks like chaos, sounds like chaos, but watch what happens next. The image shifted forward in time. The same team, now working together, combining their ideas into something none of them had imagined alone. Their excitement was visible across species lines. That's the real breakthrough. Not any specific discovery, not any particular theory. The breakthrough is accepting that your perspective is limited, and that combination with other limited perspectives creates something bigger than any single view. Looked across the assembled representatives, beings from hundreds of worlds. For 3 centuries, you built knowledge carefully, stone upon stone, creating a solid foundation. That was good. That was necessary. But you became so focused on not disturbing the foundation that you stopped building upward. Humans came along and started drilling holes in the foundation, looking for weak points. You thought we were destructive. We thought we were being thorough. Turns out we were both right. The foundation had weak spots you'd built around rather than addressing. We broke them open, and together we made them stronger. She smiled, and it was the same unsettling smile remembered from their first meeting. Here's what I learned from working with alien species. We're not special. We're not smarter or better than you. We just got lucky in one specific way. We evolved to be generalists in an unpredictable environment. That gave us tools you didn't develop, but you have tools we don't have too. They have patience and precision we can't match. They have intuitive understanding of complex systems that leaves us in the dust. They see patterns in chaos that we miss entirely. Every species brings something unique. The trick is creating environments where those unique perspectives can collide productively. Picked up the Crystal Award. So I accept this on behalf of everyone who's ever been wrong in public, everyone who's ever failed spectacularly and learned from it, everyone who's ever questioned authority and found something better. Whether human or not, those are the people pushing science forward. The future of galactic research isn't human methods or traditional methods. It's finding ways to combine the best of all approaches: structure and chaos, precision and improvisation, depth and breadth, patience and speed. She held up the crystal, and it caught the light, scattering rainbows across the chamber. Science isn't about being right. It's about being less wrong than you were yesterday. That's true whether you're human or any of the other beautiful, strange species in this galaxy. We're all just trying to understand the universe. We'll do it faster if we do it together. The applause started slowly, building like a wave. Species that didn't applaud found their own ways to show approval. Tentacles waved. Antennae flickered. Strange sounds that meant appreciation in their languages filled the chamber. Now serving as deputy director of the authority, watched from his seat. 20 years since that first inspection. 20 years since he'd walked into a human laboratory expecting to condemn it and walked out questioning everything he knew about science. The galaxy hadn't become human. It had become something new. Something that incorporated human chaos alongside alien order. That celebrated both careful methodology and wild improvisation. That understood sometimes you needed to follow the rules and sometimes you needed to break them to see what happened. Human laboratories still produced results at remarkable rates, but now they weren't alone. Breakthrough facilities across the galaxy were matching their output, each using their own cultural approaches to controlled chaos. Science was accelerating in ways that seemed impossible just 2 decades earlier. After the ceremony, found in a quiet corner, away from the crowds of well-wishers. "That was a good speech," he said, diplomatic even. "I'm learning," she grinned. "Took long enough. My students tell me I'm mellowing in my old age." "Are you?" "Hell no, just picking my battles better." She looked at the crystal award in her hands. "This is nice and all, but you know what I'd really like?" "What?" "To get back to my lab and test this crazy idea one of my students proposed. It's probably wrong, but it's interestingly wrong. The kind of wrong that might teach us something important." Laughed, a sound that came easier now than it had 20 years ago. "Then let's not keep the universe waiting. Wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to be wrong in exciting ways." They walked together through the authorities' grand halls, a human and an alien who had both learned the same lesson, that the universe was bigger and stranger than any single species could understand alone. That being wrong was the first step to being right. That chaos and order weren't enemies but partners in the endless dance of discovery. Behind them, the crystal award caught the light one more time, scattering colors across empty air. A reminder that even the highest honors meant less than the next question, the next experiment, the next chance to be surprised by reality. In laboratories across the galaxy, researchers of every species pushed forward. Some carefully, some chaotically, most somewhere in between. All of them united by curiosity and the courage to be wrong. And somewhere in a laboratory held together with duct tape and hope, a human researcher tried something that shouldn't work, failed in an unexpected way, and shouted with joy at the interesting data. The sound echoed through the halls, a battle cry for science, a celebration of failure, a promise that tomorrow they'd try again. The universe waited, vast and mysterious, and the galaxy's researchers, human and alien alike, couldn't wait to be wrong about it in new and exciting ways.